Well, it's really only under guys' authority. So I've sort of concluded that men are just superior beings.
Just Pearlythings is insufferable at worst and disingenuous at best. Welcome back to another episode of Thing I Cannot Stand. If you're new around here, I make videos reacting to the most annoying content on this platform and give my response to what these morons have to say. Why? Because I hate myself. And well, if Pearl can make 100 videos on why fat women deserve less, then I can make 100 videos on why red-pilled YouTubers are the most insufferable pricks imaginable. If you've never heard of Just Pearlythings, first of all, consider yourself lucky. Second, she's essentially an SJW BuzzFeed type channel, but instead of telling you why women are better than men, she's on the polar opposite and she's telling you that men are better than women.
We've basically been brainwashed for the last 100 years to think that women can really be equal to men.
So like your classic SJW if they were in fact an incel, but we can't call Pearl an incel because she is a woman who gets laid, so unfortunately that doesn't apply to her. But in every other regard, yeah, that's a good label for her. Originally I wanted to frame this video in a way that compared Pearl to your average incel, but after watching more and more expose videos on her, I discovered that Pearl is just a little bit more pathetic than an incel. Incels are whiny, disgusting little losers, sure, but what does that make someone who markets and pretends to agree with whiny, disgusting losers? Well, a grifter, a con artist, a spineless femcel. I'll just let you fill in the blank for that one if you want. Much like the majority of the modern day podcast bros, Pearl needs to surround herself with yes men and people who lack her like debate bro experience.
So true. That is very true.
Yeah. This way they're far easier to trip up in a conversation so she can make a viral TikTok out of it for her and her emotionally stunted fans. The more I watch, the more I realize that it's actually very reminiscent of Steven Crowder's content. Instead of debating with someone who's also used to speaking in front of a camera for millions of people, instead of debating someone who has ample time to research a topic that you decided on, why not just challenge some random college students on their way to class? Well, who cares about having an actual conversation? Just set people up for failure so you can make a funny YouTube short about it. But what happens when Pearl is faced with someone who can not only disagree with her statements, but who can challenge them and disprove them as well? Well, the same thing that happened with Steven Crowder and Sam Cedar. The same thing that happened with the Fresh and Fit Bros after challenging ABBA and Preach to a boxing match. They run away and act like it never happened. So what does it say about someone who completely folds when they don't have any yes men to mindlessly agree with them? Someone who runs away when their opponent is able to fact check and disprove them all in real time?
But I'm gonna go. Thank you.
George.
Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate you. Okay.
Have a good night.
It actually doesn't say anything. It screams that they are in fact a massive coward. That's why whenever someone proves Pearl wrong in a debate, she waits until she's far, far away from them so she could badmouth them rather than correct herself. Now, there are plenty of videos dissecting Pearl and exposing her for the massive grifter that she is. Videos far more research than I can ever bother to do on someone like Pearl. So instead I figured we'd just kind of sit back and look at a few of her videos, just like last time, but a bit more informed this time because we've already seen this shit, but now we know what to expect going into it. This first one we're going to be looking at is titled Generation of Women Without Relationship Skills, parentheses, single moms.
Men cheat physically. Posting provocative photos of yourself is obviously for attention driven by emotion. With that being said, how often do women cheat? Yeah, if we consider women accepting attention from other men cheating, how often do women cheat?
I love the finger wag she's doing here. Like it's a clever gotcha. Like it's one of those moments.
Gotcha.
Well, since Pearl wants to talk about women cheating so much, let's talk about men cheating. According to a survey from the Institute of Family Studies, which was conducted from 2010 to 2016, men are actually more likely to cheat more than women.
Way to go, guys!
And like, that's fine, whatever. This doesn't mean that all men are cheating scumbags, and that doesn't mean that women who cheat aren't awful. I think all cheaters should be cast into oblivion. Do not be mistaken. This is just me saying that it's absolutely goofy behavior to set up these hypotheticals where a woman looks bad just so you can use that to justify whatever shitty thing you have to say about them. And trust me, she has a lot of shitty things to say about women, especially if those women happen to be divorced and overweight or both.
I agree with that statement. It's true. Women love attention. This is what I'm saying. I can't stand women that just strive for attention all the time. Like it just does something to attention these days is like crack. Like I've seen some women do the maddest things for attention. I'm just thinking, what is it about attention?
Like what?
This is something we've heard plenty of times from channels like It's a Gundam, Taylor the Fiend, Think Before You Sleep, and practically every other red-pilled or anti-SJW commentator. Women be on their phones all the time. Women be taking selfies all the time. Women love attention. Oh my god, I get it. Whenever I hear these guys say shit like this, I can't help but fantasize about breaking a mirror over their fat fucking skulls, because these are the same guys who literally rely on you paying attention to them. If they're not posting frequently enough, the algorithm forgets that that they even exist, and they start getting a smaller reach. Smaller reach means less views in turn, which means less ad revenue, which means no more Genshin pulls. Even besides all that, humans are social creatures. That's why prisoners lose their mind after being put in solitary confinement for long periods of time. So to sit there and act like you're any different from a woman uploading to Instagram a few times a day, or a teenager checking their phone every 5 seconds, it really comes off as bullshit. I have no other way to word that. It's just bullshit. And don't worry, I'm aware I'm a content creator with an itch for checking my phone every 2 seconds. I get it. The difference here is that I'm not the one calling out women for liking a bit of attention, because guess what? I like a bit of attention too. I guess I'm a girl.
I think a lot of children have not really been raised by either of their parents, because even if they have a mother in the house, she is working, and daycare and the state spends more time with children than the parents do. The average parent spends 30 minutes a day. How often does the kid spend on their phone? How often does the kid at school? So the school and TikTok is having more influence on your kid than you are. So now we have all these children that are being raised by the culture and not the family.
This long-winded rant about nothing was brought on by the wife beater saying that women without fathers are whores. But let's talk about what the babysitter from The Incredibles here said. She says, even if they have a mother in the house, she is working. So daycare in the state spends more time with the children than their parents do. This tells me one of 2 things. 1, we need to pay teachers and daycare workers more than what they're already making, because whatever it is, it's not enough. And 2, both parents in this scenario are working hard to support their family. So they really can't help it when they need to pull a double shift in order to keep themselves afloat. Unfortunately, that's just how life works. I'm also not sure where she got this number from. This part where she says, the average parent spends 30 minutes a day with their child. One source I found says that married fathers spend 6.5 hours a week caring for their child, and married mothers spend 12.9 hours a week caring for their child. But this was information gathered from the year 2000, so I can't be sure if it's still accurate. Something that makes this even harder to back up is that Pearl doesn't state the age of this mystical child. And I think that's really important to state here, because the age of your child could very much determine how much time you're spending with them. Like, you're probably gonna spend way more time with your 4-month-old baby than like your 16-year-old edgy stepson. It's just kind of common sense, you know? Also, like, are we talking about single parents? Are we talking about stay-at-home moms or dads? Like, you really need to specify these kind of things when you're making claims like this. Otherwise, you come off as, well, dumb.
You can't put your worldview on them. Now you're going to teach a kid that you can chop off, you can be a girl and this and that, because because the mums are not there, your dads are not there. Now, who's raising the kids? The state's raising the kids, and then they're putting in their filthy, dirty ideology into your children.
It seems like the formula for modern day podcasts is to talk about how promiscuous you think women are, talk about how men actually want young girls because they're like fertile and submissive, and that's totally not a creepy thing to say. That's just science. And most importantly, do a transphobia. It seems like if you just do those few things, you in fact will be the next Adam22. That's the threat, by the way. You're gonna be the next Adam22. I hope you're ready to sit in the chair. Now, normally I would say that this is just such a grift, and like it is, right? But it's hard to call Pearl and her podcasts a form of grifting now, because it doesn't seem like she's getting much out of it these days. She has a channel with over 1 million subscribers, but sometimes she struggles to break even 20,000 views. Obviously, 1 million subscribers doesn't translate to 1 million views per video, but given how often she uploads, and believe me, she uploads a lot, it's crazy that she's not even getting a quarter of her subscribers to come back to watch her new content when she uploads. Hopefully her falling off indicates a decline for this kind of content, but given how repetitive most channels are with their content, I doubt it. Either way, it's still really funny to watch the views decline. It's like watching a really brutal car crash. Like, I really just want to sit here and watch.
You know, kind of red-pilled me. I was reading the writings of women like 150 years ago about marriage and like what they looked for in a husband. And they literally were writing about how like you can't trust your feelings, like that won't be a really fulfilling long-term relationship.
Pearl has a really dumb habit about talking about women from over 100 years ago. And yes, it's dumb because the standards that somebody lived by 100 years ago are not going to be the same standards that we live by today. For example, listen to what she has to say in these few clips.
Well, historically, virginity has always been a prerequisite for marriage. Like 100 years ago, 85% of women didn't admit to premarital sex. So
100 years ago, 85% of women were virgins. 95% of women aren't virgins on their wedding day, when 100 years ago, that was a prerequisite for marriage. In 2023, to go by a historical point of view, 95% of women would be.
So, I mean, you could, if 85% of women were virgins 100 years ago and everyone's on antidepressants, maybe it doesn't.
No, I'm not going to sit here and give you a history lesson. I'm not going to talk about how women in the 1870s were unable to vote, they were lacking the right to own their own property or have equal employment opportunities as men. I know you went to school. I know you're at least somewhat educated. related, so I don't think I need to give you the whole song and dance. What I will tell you is that Pearl never outright includes herself in any of these claims. In this video, she says that modern day women would be considered whores on account of how often they aren't virgins, but she never says this stuff about herself. She never sits there on these podcasts and she's like, yeah, I'd be considered a whore by this logic. No, it's all about everyone else. Now, let me be absolutely clear. No, I don't think she's a whore. I don't think she's a 304, and I don't think all promiscuous women are whores or low value, as she loves to say. I'm simply pointing out that for a woman who loves to say that other women don't take responsibility, she outright never takes responsibility for herself. She is constantly saying that women who divorce men are at fault for choosing the wrong man, but she never takes accountability for why she's still single at the age of 27.
I've noticed a lot of therapists are like older single women, and I'm kind of like, if you can't maintain a relationship, why would I take advice from you?
Also, by the way, being single at any age is totally fine, by the way. Don't get the wrong idea. But given how often Pearl criticizes other women and their relationships, or lack thereof, I feel like she needs to be able to prove that she's capable of being in a successful relationship if she wants to be as judgy as she is. Like, I shouldn't tell you all about what to look for in a car if I've never actually owned or driven a car. Does that make sense? Like, you can say whatever you want about Destiny and his wife and their relationship or whatever, but I'll take his relationship advice any day over Pearl's because Destiny is actually in a relationship. Anyway, the next 10 minutes of this podcast is just a bunch of guys saying that we need to go back to the 1950s because of course they want to go back to when women had less rights. So I'm just going to skip over it and we're going to continue on to the next thing. Now, the final video I'm going to share with you tonight is actually the video that inspired me to revisit this topic in the first place. I guess you could say it kind of struck a nerve with me. The video is titled The Real Reason for Women Voting Rights Masterclass. Okay, so another thing about Pearl, she just cannot shut the fuck up about women's voting rights. She's very dedicated on telling you that she doesn't think she deserves to vote. Like, if you approached her on the street with a camera, she'd instinctively look into the camera and go,
women got the right to vote. And a lot of times this is painted as a good thing.
Oh yeah, I don't think women should vote. Oh shoot, sorry.
You don't think women should vote?
No. Or I could give up my right to vote. I would give up my right to vote.
Why would you want to remove just from yourself the right to vote?
Well, I know, because it's always freedom without responsibility. And
I
so,
love
like,
it.
the
Women
reason...
should not
No,
vote. Pearly said it herself.
I'll tell you why, though.
I recently decided that women shouldn't vote.
Anyways, I imagine that's where the majority of her YouTube views come from. Just people thinking, wow, how could you say this? Anyways, with all of that said, let's listen to this genius explain why she doesn't deserve the right to vote.
Why don't men want to get married? What I found out is that the courts, the legal system, all of society is catering towards women, okay? All of society is basically pandering and simping for women. For example, in the UK, if you accuse your guy of a you get a free lawyer.
Really? All of society is simping for women? You're telling me that there are Pearl simps out there making her their lock screen? Is that what's happening? Look at me with a straight face and tell me that's exactly what's happening. If that's what you're doing, you're a fucking liar. And unfortunately, yet again, here I am comparing Pearlythings to Steven Crowder. Why? Because these two are very loud when it comes to stripping women of the right to get a no-fault divorce. In their minds, catering towards women, as she says, is allowing your wife to leave you simply because she doesn't love you anymore.
Oh, actually, I think we should ban divorce too. Yeah, I think that should be banned.
Okay, well, that's a little bit silly.
Now, Crowder is actually a wonderful example of why such a thing is an awful idea. Now, I'll keep this brief because this is supposed to be about Pearlythings, not Steven Crowder, but I promise we'll get back to it briefly. So, Steven Crowder's wife released security cam footage of Crowder being an absolute prick to this woman, despite her being very far along in her pregnancy with his future kids, right? Crowder wanted his wife to give his dog a certain type of medicine, and this medicine just so happened to be very dangerous for pregnant women to handle, which leads to Crowder belittling and accusing her of not loving him because she rightfully thinks this is a dumb idea. Keep in mind, she is very far along in her pregnancy with twins. And he's like, no, I don't care if it's deadly. Just do it. Do it or you don't love me. Now, if it wasn't for the court system catering towards women, then this innocent woman would have been forced to be trapped in a marriage with a man baby who cares more about his wife obeying his orders rather than the safety of his own children. Not like that information would matter to Pearl anyways, since in her words, women who marry abusive men are actually at fault because they picked the wrong guy.
It's either you don't pick the right guys.
Oh.
It's something about your decision making.
Right.
Maybe you don't pick the right guys.
So abusive women that choose lovely, amazing men that just decide to be physically abusive
which one?
because I chose that. Yeah? Is that what you're saying?
Say that again.
So I chose to be a single divorcee because of an individual's choice to be violent. Is that what you're saying?
It was your choice to get in a relationship with him.
Oh, because I did see his psyche.
Okay, so the Steven Crowder thing is a crazy story, by the way. Jay Aubrey has a fantastic video on the rise and fall of Crowder, and I would suggest you try watching that after you watch this one, especially if you're interested in hearing about how a Daily Wire member destroyed their own career. Now, back to Pearl.
Another example is free government handouts for women and single mothers. So we essentially have a system that is paying women to be single mothers. So when I would look at why are women so bad, it's like, okay, if you pay women to be terrible, then you're probably going to have more terrible women. I mean, it's just common sense. If you get paid to be a single mother, why wouldn't you break up your family?
If I have to hear this background character from The Crucible talk about single moms one more time, I'm gonna chew my fucking arm off. Pearl doesn't specify exactly what makes these women she's talking about so terrible. It's just sort of a very vague net that she throws out. I imagine she does this so her male red-pilled viewers can hear that line and just sort of fill in the blank with whatever they imagine to be true. Now, I don't know who in this country is getting paid to be a woman, but if Pearl is genuinely bothered by women being paid to be terrible, as she says, then she should really take responsibility and demonetize her videos. Because YouTube is quite literally paying her to say the dumbest shit imaginable about women, and it keeps working. I know I said that her view count is low, but I imagine that translates to some form of money.
And now we see the byproduct of this, where we have a more free society, but guys, our mental health is crazy out here. Everybody's, got depression, anxiety, all this stuff because women are raising the children by themselves. And single father homes have better outcomes than single mother homes, but the best outcomes is the parents together.
We have officially reached the point where Pearl is blaming mental health issues on single moms across the country. Are you outside of your fucking mind? Not too long ago, I made a video on an episode of the Whatever podcast, which has also featured Pearl from time to time, so make of that what you will. And in that video, I highlighted that despite these men claiming that battered wives should endure domestic abuse, they still claim to care about mental health issues in the US. I bring this up because I keep hearing these red pill channels talk about their concern for mental health issues while simultaneously being the most insufferable pricks imaginable. Like imagine if I sat here telling you how much I hate bullying before I turned around and pushed you down a flight of stairs because you're a loser. That's how it feels to hear Pearl talk about mental health issues while spending a majority of this video shaming women for being single mothers. Women who got into a relationship having no idea that they were getting into bed with men capable of tormenting them like no other when the doors are finally closed. In her mind, that's totally on them.
Is that what you're saying?
It was your choice to get in a relationship with him.
Oh, because I did what? See his psyche.
Or how about we talk about how often Pearl picks on chunky, overweight women? I don't give two shits about what your opinion on the body positivity movement is, but after 24 videos about overweight people being unattractive to you, you're just an asshole. There's nothing constructive about that. You're just being a prick. You're getting videos from her titled, "Leave Your Fat Wife. Being overweight is never attractive. The problem with fat models. Women are I can't say that. Are you kidding me? Truths about the whale syndrome. Why fat shaming exists." And the list just fucking goes on for hours and hours, and it gets way worse. I'm not scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Like, this shit is everywhere. After spending the week watching more Pearlythings videos than I feel comfortable disclosing with you all, I find it fucking hysterical how the only way Pearl can feel good about herself is by putting overweight women down, as if that's gonna magically attract anyone to this greasy-haired hunchback with the fashion sense of an 80-year-old woman. And I know. You're gonna sit there and you're gonna be like, oh, hold on, Buggy, that's crossing the line. You just said that bullying is wrong, and here you are shaming Pearl for being a bully while also bullying her? What the fuck? Yeah, because I don't give a fuck if you bully Pearl. You know why? Not because of all the videos she has on bullying women who are overweight. No. It's because Pearl has said time and time again that we need to bring back bullying.
That's why I'm like, bring back bullying.
I think that, honestly, a little bit of bullying is good for people.
Let's bring back bullying.
No, I swear to God.
I think a little bit of bullying is good for people. Let's bring back bullying.
Mind you, this is the same woman who keeps copyright striking channels for criticizing her. This is the same woman saying that people would rather attack her character than counter her argument. Even though when she finally does get countered, she runs away and resorts to bullying them on her channel where they can't exactly respond.
Except Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein likes his wife to have multiple men. That is what that is. Is that what your ideal is? That's what Ethan's. No. You want no.
So today we learned that it's very likely that Pearl is doing what she's doing for clout, and if that's somehow untrue, then she is the biggest, most irrational hypocrite imaginable. Now, if you don't mind, I'm gonna end things here so I can finally stop talking about this greaseball and go to bed. Thank you. Good night. Special thanks to Disdain for supporting me over on Patreon. If you'd like your name in my outros just like Disdain here, as well as early access to my videos, consider supporting me for just $3 a month. So for the making of this video, I borrowed a lot of clips from a lot of different channels and sort of stitched them into my video to help me make my own point. So I'm going to be linking their videos on Pearl down in the description, and if you liked this video, I highly recommend you check out their videos as well. As for what's next, Hassan Piker had some things to say about One Piece, specifically the main character of One Piece, and I don't know if you noticed, but I'm kind of a huge One Piece fan, so I really want to talk about that. And then after that, I'm gonna work on this Elliot Rodger video. I swear to God, it's outlined. I have all my notes ready. I just need to sit down and actually put the thing together. It's coming, I promise. Anyways, thank you for watching this far into the video. Thank you for continuously coming back. I look at the YouTube analytics a lot, and it tells me that a lot of you are returning subscribers, so I really appreciate that, and I really want to say thank you. Thank you a lot. And I hope to see you again soon. Peace.